Right before we jump into this video, if you'd like to take better pictures in only 11 days, well, I created a free mini video course that you can sign up for right now at FroKnowsPhoto.com/11 days. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Panasonic 24-105 f4 o.i.s lens. Now, one thing I need to point out is that this lens isn't considered Pro by Panasonic. Now, their 50mm 1.4 has a Pro label on it. Their 70-200 f4 has a Pro label on it, and this one doesn't say Pro anywhere. In fact, it has a gray S that's printed on here versus a red S that looks much nicer on those other two lenses. Now, before I get too far, don't forget you can download sample RAW files from this lens as well as from the Panasonic S1 Real World Review, which is where I took this lens and a couple of other lenses out to a horse stable to photograph horses in the wild. And by wild, I mean they were actually in the stable. They weren't wild at all. They were being trained to do things, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll get to those sample images in just a minute. But now let's get into the review of this lens. This one weighs in at 1.5 pounds and is 680 grams. It is a ½ pound lighter than the Sigma version. Now, I mentioned the Sigma version, which doesn't actually exist in the
Mount Alliance world
just yet, but maybe at some point, and hopefully by 2020, 2021, you're gonna see 40 or so
Mount Alliance lenses
for the Panasonic system. Now, bear in mind that this is an f4. Most camera companies and manufacturers or lens manufacturers have 24-105s. Nikon, for whatever reason, has a 24-120, which I actually like that range. That is a great range. This is an f4. It's not a 2.8. You would see a 24-70 2.8, but not a 24-105 2.8. It's probably one of the reasons why they don't consider this a Pro lens, though just because it doesn't say Pro doesn't mean you can't get professional results when you're shooting it. In my experience, it handled very well, and when we see the sample images, you're gonna see that they look really nice. Now let's look at the outside of this lens. And by look, I mean let's talk about the feel. It's pretty light. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel super feather light. It just feels like a lens. And as you zoom it, you can see that it extends out. So this is 24, this is 105. So you need to make sure that if you're up close to something, that when you do this, you're not hitting whatever is in front of you. On the side of it, you have a lock switch, which means you can lock the lens from turning and zooming. It's kind of worthless in my book. I don't even think that's really necessary. You have autofocus to manual right here, so you can switch there, and you've got o.i.s on or off. Now, since I just mentioned o.i.s, this is compatible with the dual i.s system, which means you will get 6.5 stops of image stabilization when you put this lens on to the Panasonic S1. So now let's jump in here and look at some sample images. This is shot at 24mm, just showing you how wide you can go with the 24mm as the horse trainer is walking out, going to pick up two horses to then walk them back, which we'll see in an image coming up. It looks like you've got some slight vignetting around the corners of the image. I personally have never really hated vignette. I kind of like subtle vignette. It kind of draws you in. And when a lot of people, or even when I started to see Lightroom make corrections for me where it gets rid of that vignette, I actually didn't like it because I like it around the edges to draw me in. Now, some of the more expensive higher end lenses don't actually have as much vignetting out at the end. Now, since I mentioned price, why don't we talk about that real fast? $1,300 bucks. $1,300 for this 24-105 f4. That's expensive. That is $200 more than this bad boy right here from Canon. This is the Canon 24-105 RF. This lens actually feels better in my hands compared to this one. They are actually pretty similar, but this is $200 less. And Sigma makes a 24-105 art lens that is $400 less than this. That's the big question here. When the Mount Alliance lenses come out from Sigma, will they have a 24-105 f4 for $400 less than the Panasonic version? And if that's the case, why would you buy the Panasonic version? I probably wouldn't buy this if there is a 24-105 art lens from Sigma that's $400 less. Now, jumping back into these images, this is where she was grabbing the two horses, and by grabbing, I mean hooking them up to walk them back to the stables to get them ready for the day. But I like the colors, I like the tones. Again, we're at 100 ISO probably outside. Yeah, we're at 100 ISO. You can look at the raw files. I'm very happy with the results for this. A 24-105 is an awesome range. I like 24-70s usually because they're 2.8s, but having a little extra reach to zoom in, or you could do portraits from 70 to 105, that is not a bad range to do portraits if this is the only lens that you have. If you needed one lens to start with, 24-105 is not a bad range. Would you like to speed up your raw workflow or give yourself a great starting point? Well, if so, we created 14 custom Lightroom presets that you can check out at FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. Over there, you can play with the sliders, see the before, see the afters, and see if you like them. And if you do like them, they're on sale right now for 40% off. For example, here's a couple of images edited with FroPack 1. So here we are with the trainer walking both horses back to the stables, and this is obviously black and white. I like the tones. Let's zoom in on her. She is nice and sharp. You can see the bokeh in the background is looking a little sharp, extra sharp. That's probably because of my editing, because I bumped this up and it looks good on the subject, but in the background, it's not looking as good when we zoom in. Now that could just be this image, but again, download the raw file, look at it for yourself, but I love the tones. The blacks, the whites, and everything else in between looks really good. Moving on to the next photo, inside of the barn, let's zoom in on Horsey Horse right here, and that is really sharp. That is tack sharp right on the horse's eyeball, and of course it kind of better be if you're shooting f4. There's a little more space to work with, but it looks nice. I like that shot. Next up, there was a horse in the middle of the barn because it was getting groomed or sprayed with bug repellent, which I didn't get sprayed with any bug repellent this time because I had long pants on, even though it was 90 degrees. But this is out at 105, and I think that this makes for a nice test image because we zoom in on the eyeball looks great. Look at the sharpness of you can see me shooting, you can see outside, you can see the sky, you can see the trees, but you can also see the backlight here. It looks good. I'm not really seeing any fringing coming in around the ears or the emo haircut at all, and it looks sharp. Looks colorful, it looks fine. It's fine. It's the $1,300 that is a little hard to wrap your head around for a 24-105 f4. Moving on, this was one of my favorite scenes from the entire real world review that we got to test out. This was the horse in the shower for its monthly shower. I do 2 showers a month, so I'm better than this horse. But anyway, I like that I could get close with 32 millimeters. They do consider this a macro lens, or macro capable, even though it doesn't say macro anywhere on the lens. You have close focusing up to 11.8 inches, which is cool because at 24 millimeters, you can get up close and keep it tack sharp right on the subject that you need. And right here, we zoom in on the eyeball. It looks great. I love the tones and color of this shot. Now, being that we see the horse in the shower here, we also see some mane and tail down here. That's a shampoo that you could use for yourself as well as your horse. So if you like to shower with your horse, pick up some mane and tail. Zooming in, I'm focused here on that bottle. That's great. And you can see that even at 24 millimeters, yep, 24 millimeters, the background's out of focus. Horsey Horse is out of focus, the trainer's out of focus, and that's giving you a good example of what the bokeh would look like at 24 millimeters when you get close to your subject. Now, after the shower was done and we moved on to one of the other stables where a horse was getting ready to be ridden, this horse was connected to the left and the right side of the barn, and I got down on a lower angle at 24 millimeters, and I love this shot. Like, I don't care if it's a 24-70 2.8 or a 24-105. A 24 is a really nice angle for getting some photojournalistic images, and that's what I was able to do right here. As we zoom in on the eye, nice and sharp. As we look around the image, well, everything's basically almost sharp front to back. But as you zoom in, you can see that there is some fall off happening in terms of the bokeh, but at 24 millimeters, when you step back from your subject, not everything is gonna be obliterated in the background. But the colors, the tone, the sharpness, the focus speed was perfectly fine on this lens as well. Now the final image has our trainer spraying down this horse with some bug spray before they take it outside, and I really like the tones and the details and the clarity in this shot. It works well. Like I said, a 24 to 105 is a fantastic range. You just have to determine if $1,300 is too much for you. I think it's too much to ask for a 24 to 105. 1,300 bucks is a lot of money, especially when the Canon version is 200 bucks less, and the Sigma version, hopefully for the
L-mount Alliance,
will be under $1,000, because at that point I would recommend the Sigma art lens over this Panasonic lens. Not that I did a bad job with it or that it didn't get great results, I just think it becomes a value proposition where the less expensive Sigma art lens would be a better option on the Panasonic system. Now, before I forget and we wrap this up, we have 2 super scientific experiments and tests left, and you guys know what's gonna happen right here. This is one of them. If you're new here, this is called the Sniff Test. This is where I sniff some stuff. Mane and tail. That's right, the original mane and tail. Because if you'd like to shower with your horse, this is the shampoo for you. Now let's blow it and see how it blows in the wind tunnel. You know what? It's telling me that it's too expensive and you should probably wait for a less expensive version. But if you're stuck needing to purchase a lens right now that's a 24 to 105 for the L-mount Alliance, this is gonna be the lens for you. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Leave some comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.